Welcome back, everybody. It is January of 2024, and it is time for another one of my aviation news roundups. So as always, I'll be going through some headlines that I have found interesting, updating on a couple of headlines I've brought up in previous videos. Again, if anyone out there does have any ideas for content or corrections or messages or notes or whatever, down below there, leave a comment. First of all, down below, comment all you like. In the description, there'll be an email, news@seansaviation.com. You can hop over there, send me an email, send me your ideas or your comments there if you want to keep it offline, and I will respond and or incorporate as I deem fit. And our Facebook, head over to Sean's Aviation on Facebook. Again, the link is down in the description, and you can comment over there if you so choose. I usually link some of these videos over there as I go, but don't be a stranger if you want to comment, as always. So let's jump into this into the news and see what the headlines look like for the month of December of 2023. And as always, before we jump into this, my name is Sean, and this is Sean's Aviation. So just before we do jump in, for all of you out there, if you do enjoy what you're watching and you haven't yet, down below, hit that like and that subscribe button, and both of those will help the analytics push this channel out to more people who could be interested in it. And if you want to be notified when I release new videos, hit that notification bell as well. And I usually release about a video a week, give or take, depending on the content. They're not always big or long. Some of them are really short. Some of them might not interest you, but I try to post at least a video a week, sometimes a bit more depending on what I got going on. So jumping right in to the actual headlines. As usual, I'm going to have some notes on the screen. I'll reference those as we go. So the big headline that I've heard anyways, and will directly impact not directly impact me, but have an interesting impact for my aviation interest. Porter is continuing to grow. Excuse me for 1 second. I think I announced in the last month's video that they are taking the 25 options to purchase more aircraft. So they purchased 30 with 50 options. They've converted 25 of those options into firm orders. So they will have 55 Embraers on top of the, I believe it's 30 or so Dash 8s. So that's huge growth in their fleet. The jets are going to allow a lot of longer range North American routes. And we're already seeing that stuff with, Ottawa, Vancouver, Toronto, Vancouver, Edmonton. They're doing some flights south. And that was announced. Like I said, I brought that up last month. The big one this month, they've announced a code sharing agreement with Alaskan Airlines. So you can hop onto Porter flights out of Ottawa, fly out west, and then jump onto an Alaskan airline and fly anywhere on the Alaskan network on one ticket and one booking. And that's huge for an airline like Porter. They already had something similar with Transat for getting to Europe, but Transat's a little bit more of like a low-cost vacation airline, where Alaska is actually it's a real airline. So it's a really interesting code share that they have, and it's going to open up a lot of sort of West Coast to Porter, and they don't have a large presence on the West Coast. So this is going to help them grow that network and get that and draw some people in and allow that growth to continue. And kind of connected to that announcement, around the same time that Porter announced this code share with Alaskan Airlines, Alaskan Airlines announced that they were acquiring or merging with Hawaiian Airlines. So they're going to become one fleet. A number of years ago, it's probably been close to 10 to be honest, Alaska merged with Virgin America and incorporated all of their routes and aircraft, and they eventually divested themselves of the Airbuses and went straight back to a Boeing fleet, and now they're acquiring Hawaiian, and that's going to open up a lot more of those Western routes. And right now, I believe Alaska actually flies to Hawaii from San Diego, I believe, with a 737. And now you're going to add Hawaiian fleet with all of their ATRs and their A330s and some of their longer routes. And again, they're consolidating this kind of Western US and Alaska, it's on the west. But either way, they're consolidating themselves out here, and they're taking over a lot of these smaller airlines. And I think it's good for everybody, because Hawaiian Airlines is also a very niche airline. They only really fly to and from Hawaii and inter-island on the Hawaiian Islands. But that's a business model that there's not a lot of, and there's money, but it's also very difficult to grow because there's only a limited area you can go. So incorporating all that into Alaska will include more destinations and allow them to grow and stay sustainable. So it's going to be cool when you have this ability that I could book a flight out of Ottawa on one ticket and get to Hawaii on Porter and Alaskan. So there's a lot of growth there, and again, I think it's good for Porter to start having these connections happening. So these, you can book with Porter and get the great service and still get to where you want to go and vacation and everything else. So that's really cool. As well, it hasn't been seen a lot in public, but the RCAF's second A330, which is registered as 330003, has been spotted in Europe, painted in a gray scheme. It's the exact same scheme that we currently have on the A310s. It's a lighter gray overall with the dark gray titles, but it has been seen painted. I believe it went back to France to get interior work done. But we should be seeing it soon. When you look at the timeline and how long it took for that first one to show up after painting before it got here, we're getting very, very close to that airframe being delivered to Canada. Now, I don't know where it's going to go, whether it's going to come to Ottawa and live with O2 here in Ottawa, or if it's going to go to Trenton and live in Trenton. I'm not on the inside, so I don't know, and only time will tell kind of where that ends up going, but it's going to be cool to see a second one show up. Our 310s are getting up there. As I might have mentioned, 03, the heritage scheme has been written off and was parked. It's being scrapped in somewhere down in Guam, I believe. It's being scrapped in Guam. So we're down to 4, two tankers, and then 01 and 02 as troop transport, and the 01's also a VIP. So we're down to 4 out of the 5 when you figure that one's always down for maintenance. Plus, you've got to fly the PM around. You only have a couple of these to be used as strategic transports. So getting these 330s online as fast as possible will help the fleet and help the RCAF fulfill the mission. So that's excited to see. As we've rolled into 2024, so we're just getting that much closer to the new aircraft being delivered. There's 3 more used ones we bought, and then there's 4 brand new ones coming. So we're getting a lot closer to getting these in service, and if they can speed that process up a little bit, then that's always a good thing. So that's exciting to see some growth in the RCAF, as well as all the other stuff, the P8 purchase and the F-35 purchase, and we're seeing some upgrades and some modernization, and it's very cool. And drones, I don't think I mentioned that. I don't think I have that written down, but the RCAF has announced that they're buying drones. They're buying Reapers. This is why I make notes. Anyways, I've posted on my Facebook page. I'll put the graphic up here that the Canadian Forces put out publicly when they made that purchase, but they are buying drones. They're going to be based at Comox and at Greenwood on the East Coast. Comox on the West Coast, Greenwood on the East Coast. There'll be a forward base up north, probably somewhere like a Callowit or something like that. And then the actual command center will be here in Ottawa, and all of the drone pilots and sensor operators will operate out of a central hub here in Ottawa and fly the drones. So again, that's really, really cool. Again, growth in the RCAF, and these things will help patrol the Arctic, and will be a huge benefit to the RCAF and the Canadian government and all the other fun stuff. And I'm sure they'll be doing what a lot of the CP-140s are currently doing on the coast, and doing fisheries tracking and all that kind of stuff to help keep track of our sovereign waters. But you don't have to have, these things can stay in the air for 24 hours. There's no pilot, there's no food, there's no bathroom, there's no sleep. These things can just fly until they run out of gas. So it's great for this patrolling of the oceans, and with automated sensors these days picking up stuff, it's really easy to keep track of stuff without having to exhaust and tire out actual human beings. So I think at the end of the day, it'll be a really large benefit for the Canadian government and the Canadian Forces as a whole to have these in service. So that's exciting. Slightly kind of air showy news, but I'm going to put it in this kind of headline section because I think it's really interesting, and it's not just an air show. The Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum, on their website, they have a list of all of their stuff, and I'll talk about this a little in the events section because the Warplane Heritage is being a little bit more involved in some of the national stuff than we've seen before. As I said, I'll get into that here in a second. But on their site, in their events section under air shows, on July 1st, they made note of a Canada Day mass flyover here in Ottawa. And it's the only place I've seen that mentioned. Now, the Snowbirds schedule shows them as being in Ottawa on Canada Day, and the CF-18 schedule shows them as being in Ottawa that day. But that's it. There's no mention of a mass flyby outside of the Warplane Heritage Museum's website, and they're showing the Lancaster. I believe it's the Lancaster, the B-25, and the Dakota is supposed to be flying over Ottawa on that mass flyover. And if you include those with the Snowbirds and the CF-18 demo, what else? I'm sure there'll be a couple of F-18s flying by, maybe a formation. You might get a 330 or a 310 flyby, a Herc or a C-17. If Vintage Wings can get involved with a Spitfire Hurricane Mosquito, you can start to, Spitfire Hurricane Mustang, you can start to see this turning into something. And I mean, we do have a Mosquito not too far across, down in Virginia Beach. So maybe we get, depending on how big the government wants to go, you could have a pretty large and involved fly past of Canadian historical aviation and modern aviation. So again, I'm speculating. All we know for sure is Canadian Warplane Heritage is going to have 3 planes, plus the Snowbirds and the CF-18 demo. That's all that's confirmed at this point until some more comes out. But as always, I will start updating you guys as more and more of that comes out in the events section. But as the big headline, there is going to be a mass flyby on Canada Day. And I can promise you that if that's going ahead, I will do everything I can to get downtown and get footage. And I'm going to try to position myself in a place. I don't want to go downtown on the hill. I don't want to be in the crowds. I'm going to set myself up somewhere off to the side, potentially. There's a spot by Nepean Point, potentially on the Quebec side by the Museum of Civilization, where I can get some really good shots, but not be right in the thick of Canada Day nonsense downtown. So we'll keep everyone updated going forward, but that is pretty big news. So moving into the events section, I mentioned last month that early December would have been the ICAS, International Council of Airshows Conference in Vegas, and that the teams would have everything announced. And they have. The Snowbirds, the CF-18, and then the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, the F-16 demo, the F-22 demo, the F-35 demo, the A-10 demo, and the Blue Angels all released their firm flight schedules or show schedules for 2024, as well as the preliminary 2025 for both the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels. And some of the U.S., I don't think the U.S. Navy Hornet Squadron did. The Marine F-35 and the Osprey schedule has been it's very short, but they've released a quick schedule. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about all of that. Down below, I'll put a link to, where will I link that to? I think I'll probably link it to Airshow stuff, to their calendar, and you can go in there and see their schedules there. It's probably the best way to have one link. So down below, you'll see the link to Airshow Stuff Forum. And inside that will be the performers list. And you can go through and see all of the different demonstration teams if you want to see the entire schedule for everything that is going. I'm going to keep updating on the 4 main shows that I'm doing, which is Quinte, Michigan, Trenton. So that's Quinte, Trenton, Michigan, London, and Gatineau. Those are the 4 shows I plan on going to, and we'll update on those. So starting with Quinte, they did release quite a bit of information. I shouldn't say quite a bit. They've been a little cagey with things, but either way, there have been some announcements coming out of Quinte. They're going to have an app coming out in March of 2024. We'll be able to go put it on your phone and get all the information and get all your performers and schedules and all that other kind of stuff. They put a call out for food vendors, food trucks, so that's a good sign. Tickets have gone on sale already. I've already bought my ticket. I initially bought a photo pit and the early access ticket, and then they jigged it around, and photo pit includes early access. So hooray, I get to refund that one ticket and save a bit of money, and I'll roll that over into some other stuff. But either way, there's been quite a bit of movement. They have announced a couple of performers. So I believe they've got the B-25, the Lancaster, the Dakota, the Snowbirds, the CF-18, the U.S. Air Force F-16 demo will be there, and 100% guaranteed, it has been confirmed, the Italian demonstration team, the Frecce Tricolori, are going to be there as we, I say Tricolori, but it's Tricolori, anyways. Frecce Tricolori is also going to be at the show. The Italians will be in Quinte in Trenton. They're also going to be in Bagotville and in Cold Lake. in Canada, and then a number of shows in the US. But either way, it's so exciting. I haven't seen them since like 1990. Oh man, I gotta go back. 92. I actually, I think it's 1992, the last time they were in Canada. They were at the Ottawa Airshow, and I still have the Airshow program in my closet over there with all the other kind of stuff I've been saving for years as when I was a kid. I have that 1992 Airshow program from the Italians, and I'm gonna try to take it with me when I go to Quinte and get something picture. Anyways, it's gonna be really cool. It's been 30 years since I've seen them, or close to, God, yeah, 32 years since I've seen them. So it's pretty cool that that's going to happen again, and I'm very excited to see them. So that's Quinte. Now, when it comes to tickets, they had limited numbers of the photo pit tickets. I believe they only had 100 per day, so there's probably likely they're sold out already. So, I mean, if you are interested, try to get up there and get those tickets now. I'm going to put links to all the air shows I'm talking about down below as well. So those of you who do want to go and are kind of using me as your source of information, you can go and try. But yeah, the tickets for Quinte Photo Pit anyways are probably sold out. General admission are around, and the tickets really aren't bad. I think I mentioned last month the ticket prices are pretty decent. I think it's like $10 a person to get in. It's not much at all, and I'm hoping that it's going to be amazing, because I have a distinct feeling Trenton is going to be the RCAF's main show for the 100th anniversary, that they're going to invest a ton of money and effort into getting Trenton to being the absolute best show we can have to showcase Canada's Air Force past, present, and future. So I'll keep everyone updated as usual with that. Thunder over Michigan as well. They've announced, last month I talked about some of their stuff. There have been some more announcements. So the Evergreen P38, they were there last year with the 109. They were there the year before with their Corsair. This year they've added their P38, which I believe is Tangerine. So it's a P38 I haven't seen. I've only ever seen really 2 airworthy P38s, and I've only ever seen one fly, which is that one owned by Fagan. So again, to see another P38 flying is just another kind of cool thing, and I get to knock another warbird off my list. So that's going to be cool. They also have the F-16 demo, U.S. Air Force F-16 demo going to Michigan. I'm a little annoyed when stuff like that happens. Like last year we had the F-22 demo in Michigan and London, and now this year we've got the F-16 demo in Michigan and Quinte. It's kind of nice when they kind of mix it up and I get to see multiple teams in a year, but I'll take it. It also means I can focus more on one or the other. For example, if I take pictures and whatnot in Quinte, I can focus on video in Michigan, or vice versa. I can make sure I get what I want to get. But anyways, those have been confirmed. F-16, U.S. Air Force F-16 demo, and the Evergreen P-38 will be at Michigan, and also their tickets are on sale. So if you are wanting to go to the Thunder Over Michigan show, which is in the July 21st, I believe, it's late July, head over to the website again, be down in the description. You can go buy those tickets now. I am again in the photo pit, so I'll be there on Friday for the taxiway arrival, and then on Saturday in the photo pit, including the night engine run, hopefully including that P-38. Fingers crossed on the Saturday night. So that's going to be fun. Gatineau, the tickets aren't on sale yet. They'll probably go on sale early in the new year. That's usually when they put their tickets up for sale. But again, with the schedule coming out, it's been confirmed the Snowbirds will be there. The CF-18 demo will be there, and the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds will be there on top of the standard, the usual, the Mike Potter collection of the Spitfire Hurricane and the Mustang. And again, I've been hearing some inside rumors with my contacts over there that it looks like it's gonna be a really interesting and fun lineup again. So again, when stuff gets officially announced, I will, or if I get permission to announce stuff, I'll make sure we all update everybody here on that. But it's looking exciting. And then London, Snowbirds, CF-18, and once again, the F-16 demo. So I'm going to see that Raptor demo 3 times this year, June, July, and September. So again, it's a little disappointing when it's the same demo like that. It's nice when they can kind of, when mixes it up. But again, I'm not going to complain. It's an F-16 demo, especially this year if we go down and I get my wife to come down with me and whatnot. She loves the zoom and boom, so I'm not going to complain. I get to watch an F-16 up close in London. London is a very close show, so I'm very excited to go down to London and see that. Now, I mentioned earlier about Warplane Heritage doing a little bit more involved. So they're touring the Lancaster again, and they haven't toured the Lancaster in many years across Canada anyways. They started to restrict the flight hours on that Lancaster in order to preserve it. And I mean, Canada's huge. Geographically, it is a massive country. You know what I mean? You look at Battle of Britain Memorial Flight with that Lancaster flying over England. England is smaller than Ontario. So when you factor, when you think about what that Lancaster, you can take off out of England and you can hit out of I think it's in Collingsby. Anyways, it can leave its home base, the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight's home base. It can take off and it can just fly a circle and it can hit 6, 7, 8 large metropolitan areas in one flight. You take off out of Hamilton and there's not much. You come to Ottawa, you got to turn around and head back. So it's getting it across Canada is a large effort. You need to have hangar, you need to have fuel, you need to have runway large enough. You need, it's not an easy prospect. So they haven't toured it across Canada for a while. It did the flight to England almost 10 years ago now, I think it was, when they flew that to England. And other than that, it's been pretty much staying very close to home. The odd air show came to Ottawa a couple of times, Michigan, down to Geneseo, New York, but it was very close to home. They didn't really push that aircraft more than about an hour and a half in the air at most. So the fact that they're touring is going to be big. It's going out east to about to Nova Scotia, and it's heading west as far as Manitoba. So again, I'll put the link down below to their website, Warplane Heritage Museum's events website, and you'll be able to take a look at what airports they're going to, what shows they're going to. So that'll all be down below as well, so you can take a look at that. So that kind of wraps up events. So there's been quite a bit, excuse me, with the ICAS announcements and some of these air shows announcing stuff. It's been a pretty busy couple of weeks for air shows. But then we get into Christmas, so everything dies down. So I'm expecting into the new year, into January, we'll start to see some more announcements happening and some more activity on these air shows as they start to build stuff up, especially things like Trenton and Michigan that are early in the year. Trenton's in the end of June and Michigan's at the end of July. So they're going to have to start, normally Michigan's in August. Now it's July, it's a month early. Trenton is the end of June. I mean, we're only 6 months from the Trenton Air Show. So there's not a lot of time to get this stuff out. So we should be seeing announcements relatively quickly on that. The last little bit about events, just because I know I've been mentioning it in the past, is the Red Arrows. There are still rumors that they're doing a North American tour. There have been a number of European air shows, like I believe Guernsey moved their show date earlier in the year to get the Red Arrows because their August date, the team was going to be on an overseas trip. So a number of these European shows have been moving their dates to accommodate an overseas trip by the Red Arrows. It has not been confirmed that that overseas trip is Canada, but there's a lot of evidence, 8-ball says yes, basically. There's a lot of evidence pointing towards it being a Canadian tour. So again, we'll have to wait for that official announcement. I've been told if it's going to happen, it should be announced early in the new year as the RAF brass finalize their plans and especially budgets, get their budgets in line and figure out whether they have the money to accommodate a trip. So we should get official announcements early in the year. I suspect we will see a Canadian tour. Again, not 100% confirmed. So moving on, we'll take a quick look at incidences, and there is a couple of follow-ups to previous incidences I have. The first one is, I mentioned last month about the Alaskan Airlines, the Horizon Air pilot who was flying jump seat on the Embraer 175 and actually attempted to shut off the engines. He attempted to turn the fuel flow off to the engines and shut down the engines mid-flight. He had been like 40 hours awake and psychedelic mushrooms, and there's been a whole bunch of nonsense and weirdness connected to that. It has been officially announced that he is being charged, but he's not being charged with attempted murder. He's going to be charged with reckless endangerment. That's still 80 counts of reckless endangerment, so it's not a small penalty if he's found guilty, especially, I don't know specifics of the legal system, whether I'm assuming it's going to be federal charges because it was aviation, and I'm pretty sure in the US federally you can do consecutive sentences. So if you found guilty of reckless endangerment and it's a 5-year prison sentence and you get found guilty 80 times, that's 40 years in prison. No, 400. Yeah, 80 counts of reckless endangerment at 5 years apiece is 400 years in prison. Here in Canada, you can't have consecutive. It's all concurrent. So even if you get charged with 80 counts of reckless endangerment at 5 years, you're only in prison for 5 years because you're serving all 80 sentences at the same time. But in the US, you can get consecutive sentences, and this is how you get these 400-year prison sentences. So I don't know. Again, I'm assuming it's federal. I don't know what the prison time is for reckless endangerment, if there even is prison time. I'm assuming there would be. I don't know the ins and outs of legalities in the US and the legal system, so I can't comment too accurately on all of that. But I suspect if he's found guilty for 80 counts of reckless endangerment, he's probably spending the rest of his life in jail. I suspect. But that's the update on that, so I'll have to keep our ear more of the court side of it to see. But again, I'll keep you guys updated as I get information and read about this. The next up, again, I think this goes all the way back to March. I think it was the very first video I ever did of the the aviation news roundup videos. I commented on an ATR crash in Nepal, where as the pilot was approaching to land, they had an engine failure, and the plane crashed. And at the time, it was believed that the pilot feathered the wrong engine. So the one engine quit, and then he feathered the prop on the wrong engine, and the plane crashed. Well, the final report has been released, and it was that there's no mechanical issues with the aircraft. It was 100% pilot error that caused the crash. And the belief, based off of all the evidence, is that the initial power failure of the left engine, they feathered the left prop. And then as the pilot or co-pilot attempted to move the flap handle, from, the flap handle comes down. So you feather the one prop, handle comes down from run to feather. Then there's another prop, then there's the flaps. And as he attempted to grab the flaps and pull the flap lever down, he or she mistakenly pulled the right prop handle down into feather. And either way, however the mechanism on the hows and the whys, they feathered both engines and they lost all power, and the plane crashed short of the runway and killed everybody on board. So that's just another one of those, like I said, human error, crew resource management type crashes where there's nothing wrong mechanically with the plane other than the engine failure, but you can fly on one engine, and the only reason the plane crashed was pilot error. So it's a good lesson learned for other people to make sure, especially in the ATR, that those handles, and they're shaped a specific way for a specific reason, and you need to make sure you're doing the right thing at all times. So yeah, finally, we're gonna go back to the MAX, the 737 MAX. It seems like this aircraft can't ever catch a break. There was a case of an operator, and they've kept some details private, I want to say. There was an operator, and they haven't said which operator, but there was an operator of the 737 MAX that during a routine inspection found a bolt in the rudder assembly that didn't have a nut. It was just a bolt holding, in a hole. It was still there, but the nut was missing. So they reported it the way that they're supposed to report it. And Boeing was doing some inspections on some of the aircraft at the factory before delivery, and they found another 737 MAX with the same bolt where the nut was loose. It hadn't been tightened down properly, which means if that had been delivered with a loose nut, due to vibrations, that nut can work its way off, and that could have been how that other aircraft was discovered without a nut on that bolt. So FAA has issued a directive that every single MAX in service, and I'm assuming this is going to apply in Canada and most of the world as well, requires an inspection of that bolt to check and see if the nut is tight or if the nut is even there, if the bolt is even there. There's possibility of an aircraft without a bolt. That being said, there has not been an incident in service of any type of accident or incident due to this. It was just found during a maintenance inspection. So They say it's going to take about 2 hours per airframe to do the inspection. Most airlines have started already, and they're doing this inspection while the aircraft is already down for routine maintenance or on overnights or layovers. So they suspect by the end of January that all aircraft in service should be inspected. And again, if we ever hear an update and I find out that there were more or anything like that, of course, we'll keep everyone out there updated through this video going forward. Probably the Feb 1, if not March, we'll have updates on that. So that kind of brings us to the end of it. Again, I'm telling you news that I see, that I've heard, that I find interesting. If there's anything you think I should have talked about or brought up, by all means, as I said earlier, message me, email me, Facebook, whatever you want to do to get that point to me. I will do my best to incorporate into the next video, or, you know, comment down below, pin it, notes, whatever I need to do to make sure it gets mentioned. But yeah, that covers kind of the news that I saw through December of 2023. And we'll come back in a month. We'll do this all again for the news through January. So on that note, thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you all next time.